How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I caught three shiny Bulbasaurs today.
Oh, nice.
It was a community day. What was it? Not Redux, but kind of like a rerun with
Right.
Bulbasaur. And yeah, I missed it when they first did it, and I finally got a chance to do it again. They
Great.
only had it for like from 2 to 5 though. So
Oh,
that's why I couldn't schedule sooner in the day because Bulbasaur beckoned to me.
mhm.
My apologies.
No, it's totally fine. So I can kind of try and focus more on things that you maybe hadn't talked about as much. Would your first like anime job be doing incidentals on Toradora or Skip Beat?
Oh, my first anime job was actually for Tweeny Witches. It's
Okay.
when I not incidentals, walla even. So I just did like the better voices that are in the background, crowd scenes and stuff like that. And yeah, I just did my work and I just wanted to do it even more. I actually did it for my high school senior project at the time because how I got into voice acting was that when I was in high school, senior year of high school, they wanted everyone to figure out what they were going to do for the rest of their life,
Right.
everyone's high school experience. I thought I was going to be a writer. So I thought, okay, if I already know I'm going to be a writer, I'm going to explore something I don't have the resources to usually ask about and have the professionalism of the school backing me instead of just being like, yo, what is it right? What is it like to be a voice actor? Well, with my school helping me, I was able to job shadow voice actors, tour studios, and interview voice actors and directors and casting directors and people. And one of the studios was able to let me participate in a recording session, not just as an observer, but as an actual performer.
Mhm.
After that recording session for Tweeny Witches, I wanted to do more voice acting. It was a lot of fun. It was tiring, but the thing is that it was actually very creatively involved. It was a lot more, it isn't so much, it was a lot more technical than
Mhm.
just make things up. Even though Walla, you do make things up, but you had to match flap, you had to stick to the context of the show, fit the beeps, beep, beep, beep act, and then you just from the basic no one has ever acted before perspective, it was a little challenging because I had no improv experience at the time, but I did the best I could. And they called me back more and more after I got even more training under my belt.
And were you also studying with Crispin Freeman at that time?
Uh, I think that was a little later, but yes, not too much personally, like not one on ones. But the thing is, I did keep in touch with him quite a bit,
Mhm.
and he was able to help me out with my interviews. He was able to like not interviews as in for a class per se, but for basically whatever question I had, I asked him, and he was very generous in answering them.
Mhm.
And we just kept in touch. I took his workshops, matched flat, discovered what I needed to work on, and there we went. It's sort of like where were the classes? Where were the voice acting classes at the time? There weren't too many of them. There was one at my college because it was taught by a voice actress, Peggy O'Neill.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and there was one by Crispin. Then you know about the Bang Zoom's adventure in voice acting, and there's not too many others, but those were two of them were ADR-ish focus. The other one is more about acting fundamentals than not just Bang Zoom. Bang Zoom does go into the acting fundamentals, but Crispin, he's also an actor, working actor, so of course he's going to be all about the acting.
Mhm.
Not to say the others weren't actors, of course, but it's sort of like there were. It's sort of like when I first took his class. I think he even had two performers, not just performers, but people from Pixar, I believe, who specialized in improv. It was so long ago I forgot their names, but the thing is I know that they were no slouches. They knew how to get people to get up, play, and act.
Mhm.
And it was a lot of fun.
And were there like specific voice actors that inspired you the most when you were starting out?
Starting out, it's sort of like of course I like Gray Delisle, now Gray Delisle Griffin, because of her performance as Azula.
Right.
And then I also really liked Laura Bailey's Toru Honda from Fruits Basket. And those are ones that I kind of grew up with. And it's sort of like, wow, Avatar's a long time ago, huh? And so it's the original Fruits Basket.
Right.
After that, it's sort of like there was also a voice actress by the name of Carrie Savage, who I met in a mall, because when you live in Southern California, sometimes you run into voice actors. What happened was that the person who ran the anime store was playing her roles on the big screen. I was like, why does that sound familiar? And who's talking at the front of who's taking so long in line? Not taking so long in line, who's up at the counter so much? And I'm too shy to approach because I was in middle school. And then it turns out that was her. And the thing is sort of like, not to say that she was unattractive, but it's sort of like she was there in a mall in Southern California shopping with the rest of us for anime. And it felt much more human and not so far away. So I considered her an inspiration, because it's sort of like, she's real. She's not like a very big star that would tackle you with security if you were too close. She's real. And that very much was kind of like, I mean, to be fair, there are a lot of voice actors that you have a fair distance away from, because you usually see them at the conventions. They're nice and safely up on stage, unless some crazy person rushes the stage, but that's just another can of worms. But it just feels so distant, because you're the audience, they're the presenter. But in this case, we're doing the same thing. We were buying anime, and that's probably what's so inspirational to me, because there was a humanizing element that I really liked from that meeting. The thing is that I remember her performance from Stelvia, and the thing is that she, at the time, a long time ago, didn't know that Compado were real, because they weren't popular yet. So the little sugar stars, I actually bought some for her, and she was like, "These are real." And the thing is that it's sort of like, if I remember, I actually gave it to her in person, because we just shopped for the same anime from the same anime store for a few times.
And so, do you know what your first more dramatic role would have been in an anime?
In anime, huh? That's a tricky one, because it's sort of like, in a way, I kind of graduated up the long way from walla, incidentals, and then named roles and supporting characters, leads, that kind of stuff. And the thing is that it's not like going to law school or even medical school. It's not a straight shoot. It's not like everyone's going to have the same path. But I will say that for anime, that's a tough one. Because the thing is that my favorite role was Koko from Pokemon Secrets of the Jungle. That's my favorite anime role. And that's a tough one, because I also played Valt, and Valt's another favorite. But Koko gave me a lot more room to act with. But my first one, let's see, because my first named roles after walla were the three girls in K-On!
Right.
And the thing is that they did give me my first time to shine, aside from being in the whole mass of other people. I actually got to match flat for once, instead of being like, oh, just act on time. Now it's I have to act to picture. And it was a little dramatic. There were some girls, they wanted to use a prop for the play, but they didn't have the prop. And it's sort of like, well, if you can find the story arc in there, and the stakes are really high because you still believed in the moment, then it's kind of dramatic. It's just sort of like every little moments. I mean, we don't fight dragons every day. Maybe the closest thing to fighting a dragon is making sure that your play goes right.
Well, I know that there's kind of a lot of emotional moments with Keel as well in Shield Hero.
Yeah, a lot of stuff happened to Keel. Poor Keel. And it's sort of like the fun part about Keel is sort of like Keel is my normal voice, so I didn't feel like I had to put on a style of acting. Or put on a voice. It was just me. And we're lucky whenever we get to just be ourselves for a role, but a lot of the time we tend to be cast for the voice that we have, not just the roles we have. But for Rising of Shield Hero, it had a more grounded performance. If you have Keel has his Keel has his up and downs. Sorry, I just caught myself. I'm not sure if you know, but I won't spoil anything. Don't spoil anything either for the viewers. But if you read the novels, then who knows? They might even go into it inside season 2 or 3, depending, because that they announced that a while ago, didn't they?
Right.
That they were gonna do more Shield Hero, and I'm not sure if Keel comes back, but if so, there is a lot to go off of from the light novels. But anyways, Keel goes through a lot, from yay, we live in a happy village, to oh no, now our village is being enslaved. Also, my friends are dying. And then it's kind of like, hey, Ratalia, you're back. By the way, spoiler alert, I'm probably the last one left. So, but then again, things are okay again, because now Fumi saves everyone. And Ratalia too. And it's sort of like, now it's kind of like, what does Keel do aside from rebuild a village? It's sort of like, where does the adventure go? But it turns out that a lot of people like Naofumi in the world of Shield Hero, so we might see more Keel. Who knows? So yes, there's a lot of acting in that one, and I just got to feel instead of concentrate on the voice so much.
And it is one of my signature questions to always ask, what do you think is the single darkest headspace you've had to go for voiceover?
That's a tricky one, because here's the only reason why I say it's tricky is because that sometimes the tricky thing about acting is that you have to tell the truth so well that even you believe in it. Right. Then when you believe in it, the audience believes in it, because have you ever heard a fake laugh before? It's kind of like that. You have to believe in it and trick the reflexes enough to believe, so your body is all like, oh, this is funny, I'm gonna laugh now, and then you're all laughing too. Sometimes you try to give yourself some distance away from the situation, because you have the next line, you can't just be a sobbing mess when the next scene comes in, because we are recording this in this order. And then, well, for some projects, some of them are fan projects, and the thing is that some of them got a little too real, because they're written by people who were basically writers who are developing their craft. There are some fan projects I work on that are made by people who are working in the industry but have so much free time that they decide to make a fan comic about Undertale and Deltarune. And like, I'm not kidding, they actually storyboard for either Disney or Pixar, and they just have that much free time, I guess, and they're that amazing a storyteller. And the thing is, sort of like, I played like half the cast members in that webcomic that we practiced working on, because I always practice all the time, even when I'm not working. And it got really dark, and the dark headspace was talking about insecurities, and it just touched upon some past traumas I had. I mean, when I did machinima for Afmal, that was also like, she was going through a change, and she was so afraid. She knows that what she's doing is so bad, but she knows that she's not a bad person, but she doesn't want to do the bad thing. And I relate with that a lot. And it's a very dark place, because that feels like you have no other choice but to do the thing you don't want to do. It's really sad. But back to the Deltarune one, the thing is that they actually had, spoiler alert if you're reading the one I'm talking about, it's called there's actually 2 of them actually, but I think Paper Trail's the Deltarune one, and Dogs of Futures Past is the Undertale one. For the Deltarune one, there's this chair that makes the characters talk about their deepest, darkest secrets and fears, that forces them to talk about it. And that's the only way they can advance inside the game of the challenge, to advance through the cave that will help them complete their journey. I had to play half the cast, so 2 characters went on that chair back to back. One character was talking about a childhood trauma they had that, I mean, I'm going to do a lot of spoilers, but the thing is that when we talk about dark moments like this, of course, they're going to reveal parts of themselves that are very harmful and that just eat away at them. In this case, this character had an eating disorder and did not know it. And it manifested in eating the pet hamster in their school. and
Oh.
they thought that they were a bad person because they have this hunger that they can't control. But it turns out it's because they have an eating disorder. They didn't know it was an eating disorder. They thought that they were just evil because they were perpetually hungry. But it's kind of like they didn't have enough money. They weren't getting proper nutrition. And later on, they learned from their friends that it's just an eating disorder. You have help if you look for it.
Mhm.
And that it went on a roller coaster from, oh my God, these things aren't my fault. It's sort of like it's because there's something with me that doesn't necessarily mean I'm wrong, but there's something with me that I just have to work with, and there's help out there that can help me, and it just feels too real.
Mhm.
And the other character I had to play right after that character had went through a feeling that as if nothing was real in their life. Their choices weren't there. They felt like someone else was making their choices with them. Nothing felt real. And it's felt like dissociation, if I had to put it into words. And that's not a fun experience. It just feels like, oh, this pain is the only thing that makes me feel alive because I feel something. But
Mhm.
when it's gone, am I still alive? Am I really happy, or am I just going through the motions? But it's sort of like I wish my head processed the love you have for me like my heart did. And
Mhm.
that's what that character was going through. Everything was just a whole bunch of processes, a whole bunch of things that were beyond their control. And they just didn't feel like they were them. And was a really dark place. And there are lots of dark challenges and those are just fan comics. The one that was actually for a production that I actually have on my resume, of course, is Louis from Ghost Giant. I mean, again, more spoilers, but for Louis and Ghost Giant, what he had to do was that he was always very scared of everything. He had a lot of anxiety. I have anxiety too. So I was all like, yeah, this is nothing. This is like anxiety. I can anxiety too. I get anxiety all day long. But it turns out that we got into the root of why Louis had anxiety. He was taking care of his mother who had deep depression, and he was overcompensating to take care of his mother. He was trying so hard to make sure that his mother was okay that that his anxiety just kept growing and growing. The reason why he had his ghost giant friend was because there is help out there if he just believed himself more. But there are things that sort of like you still need help though. So you can't just say that, oh, I can help fix my mom's anxiety. He had to look for help. And the thing is that he also can't just make it he can't just blame himself for his mom having anxiety and depression and whatever mess that was all stuck in his mom's mind. But he's just a little boy taking care of his mom. And the thing is, there like bills were piling up. He had to find his own food and all that stuff. It's really dark stuff. And the thing is that when we got into the climax where his mom had to be taken away, it just felt like the dark part about that is feeling like everything you worked for, that's what you were trying to avoid.
Mhm.
And that's kind of like the Lilo and Stitch thing of kind of like you have Nani taking care of Lilo. And the thing is that you have Child Protective Services saying that you can't take care of Lilo. We're going to take Lilo away, but they're still family. And that's the scary part when I was playing Louis, because I did not want my mom to be taken away.
Mhm.
I felt like I had to do everything to make sure my mom was okay. But as the story went, the thing is that everyone needed to help. And the thing is that the mom and Louis have done so much good for the community. Of course, the community wanted to help. It's just that we had to reach out.
Mhm.
I know, very dark, deep psyche stuff. And these are for indie stuff, by the way. The closest thing to me doing this for like non-indie stuff is kind of weird, because the thing is that professional work kind of blurs the line between what is I don't know, indie and not indie.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like, what can I say? I think Ghost Giant was not indie at all. It was actually published by Sony, so I guess it's not indie anymore.
And I guess, well, since you brought up playing a boy character, I was also going to ask, when I've talked to voice actresses who also do boy voices. I noticed that everyone's process is different. Do you have like a specific process, or does it just kind of depend on who the character is?
I try not to. It's sort of like for boy voices. The funny part is sort of like I try to act first and the voice follows. I have a funny story about this. If you ever interviewed Daryl Delphine, Daryl Delphine, he's gonna find this and he's gonna be like, Kimmel, you said my name wrong. What's wrong with you? But but one time I was hanging out with Daryl, and the thing is, there like whenever I got flustered, he said, "Crap, you sound like Valt," and I'm like, "What? I do." And it's sort of like when the mood's there, the voice follows, and it's sort of like I think that's what casting directors try to do is what they cast me because it wasn't hard to sound like Valt. My voice was already mostly there. It's like, yeah, I'm Valt. There we go. Let's go on adventure, Valtriac. We're gonna go through this forest, get lost, get found again, maybe get a new Valtriac because something always happens to Valtriac almost every single season, and then everything's gonna be fine. We're gonna find people who need help, like me. I'm good at helping. I'm a good big brother. I have two twin siblings, not sisters, siblings. Toko, and I forgot who the other one is. Dang it. I'm a bad brother. Oh no, but it's okay. They are their own people now. They're not the twins. They're my siblings, and they are awesome bladers and managers. And it just keeps going from there.
Well, this is obvious too, but I would think that it was somewhat difficult to get a hold of a Coco.
For Coco, the funny thing is sort of like people noticed that it was the same voice as my Valt voice, but the acting's different. At first, when I was auditioning for Coco, I was terrified because it was sort of like, how do I get this right? What do they want from me? Because when we first auditioned, it wasn't for the movie, it was for the trailer. The movie wasn't out yet. So it's kind of like, okay, how do we get this right? How do we get into the character and only have two lines? One of them's my name, and the other one is Dada. Coco and Dada. I had only two audition lines, and I was like, oh, okay. But then we auditioned for the movie, and I had to make sure I got that right. And I was like, okay. So basically, it's a callback after I auditioned for the trailer. How I really got into it was that there's a part of the script that said you have to speak entirely in Zarud. And that was the easy part. The rest was sort of like, okay, how do I sound like a Zarud and still be Coco? And because it's sort of like how it basically got into my creature work. And then, I mean, talking as Coco is easy. I can get one of the scenes they give was the moment where Coco confronts Dada about his origins. That it's sort of like you kind of wonder about who you are, you know who you are, but why didn't anyone acknowledge this? And then you had to figure it out on your own. It's sort of like, we could have done this together. Why didn't we? And it's a lot of distrust. But that I could connect with because I kind of empathize with that. The hard part is always like, is this what they want? And then that's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to just act and forget. But for me, I was just having fun being as a Rude because I mean, if you've ever fell in love with Pokemon, you always had that phase in your life when you at least role play as a Pokemon. So the easy part was sort of like, okay, if I'm gonna be a Pokemon, or in this case, Coco is a Pokemon. There is no Coco pretending to be a Pokemon. It's Coco is a Pokemon. Then just be a Pokemon. And I made sure that I was as scary as a Zarude could possibly be, because they didn't really give a reference audio for how Zarudes should sound like. But I look at the picture. I know Zarudes are very big. They're black and green. They have red eyes with green pupils. They are pretty scary. So I made sure that I was scary. And I was all like, was that a good move or a bad move? Because from my experience, it's sort of like you're supposed to match the audience of the show. But kids can handle all sorts of things in Pokemon. So I was okay with being as scary as Zarude from my perspective. Because it's sort of like, wow, okay, there are ghost Pokemon. Those are and dark type Pokemon. Those are pretty scary. And then, but Zarude, yeah, Zarudes are probably like on a tier of like pretty high in the scary scale in the world of Pokemon. And the movies tend to skew more grounded because I did my homework before I auditioned for my callback. And if you watched Power of Us, there's an on-screen death. Yeah, kids can handle a lot of stuff apparently. So it's sort of like, yep, okay, don't need to worry, just handle it like an actor at their craft. And that's what I did. And then I was cast as Coco, and then I was just like, oh, this is really hard because I have to match flap and make sure that I don't get fired because the producers for Pokemon are on the call with us.
Mm-hmm.
That was a lot of pressure. I was like, am I going to lose my job? Am I going to get fired? But then we got to the Zarude part, and I was like, oh, that's why you hired me, because I was probably the scariest Zarude in the room, aside from the other Zarudes who that were cast as Zarudes.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard how Kellen and Edward Bosco sounded as the Zarudes? Everyone else as the Zarude, they sound really scary. And I was like, it's probably because I sounded the scariest of the woman who, and everyone else who tried out for Coco. So that's probably what happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just think especially the sort of climax of the movie, what you did there was just really well done. And like,
thank you.
Totally believable.
Yeah, I nearly passed out during that one scene because it's sort of like, he does that thing that made me convinced that he is definitely a Pokemon. Mm-hmm. He does the thing. I'm actually not sure if I'm allowed to talk about plot elements because I need to give everyone the chance to watch the movie, but you know about the climax, so I can say he does the thing that makes me convinced that he is very much a Pokemon. Ever feel super helpless? You want to do the thing really badly? I had to put in that much intensity. Mm-hmm. I wanted to do the thing that badly. And then, of course, you get to the scene where he gets really mad at the real antagonist of the movie, and yeah, he's really upset.
Mm-hmm. And it was also cool to see you be Garou.
That's speaking of childhood traumas. I literally got bullied the same way when I was in kindergarten. Yeah, they made me the bad guy because I didn't speak enough English, which was probably, and they literally told me that when we were playing a game of Lion King or something like that, they said, we don't have any hyenas. Kimlin, you be the hyena, you chase us. And I'm like, what's going on? I don't speak English. Mm-hmm. But I remember the words because hyena, that's a very specific word. And then they just played the game and made me the bad guy. And I was all like, oh no, here, I wasn't the only one, poor Garou. But then again, Garou came from a place of like being very empathetic towards people of all walks of life. So it's sort of like, of course he understands why the bad guys aren't always necessarily bad. So I kind of felt the same way. It's sort of like, oh. So that was really intense. That was that would count as an incidental role, but he appeared for several episodes. He's actually just the younger form of the main antagonist, or one of the main antagonists of One Punch Man. Deep-seated stuff. I had to live through that stuff for Greg Chun. And okay, he lived through different things, but I had to go through the childhood trauma part while he goes through the whole like I'm getting beaten up by Saitama part. Right. There are lots of flashbacks throughout anime, of course, and many media, not just anime, played by someone else, and they're all like, drama feels, and the present day persons are like, haha, I'm gonna conquer the world. And we're like, okay.
And it's on the complete opposite side of that, but in terms of like comedy and lighter stuff, but playing one of the thymocytes in Cells at Work.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, the part where he was punching the tree, really hard to match the flap. Bam, 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 well, bam, bam, bam. It was one long flap thing, and I was like, oh, okay. The rest was easy, but when he was punching the tree, I think it was sort of like, why am I having so much trouble with this tree part? I can't just make stuff up per se. Some projects I can, but in this case, it's bam, 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 or something like that. But other than that, it's kind of like it is a very lighthearted role. It's super cute. Is there like, oh, you ever had those moments where you basically get not beaten up by other people, but beaten up by work or school or something like that? It feels like that. All the feels. and you just have so much energy and you just want to do the thing. And he just practices in his off time and it's sort of like, oh, little immature time site.
So who do you think you, in terms of anime, who do you think you personally relate to the most?
Probably Coco.
Okay.
I mean, for Valt, he most of the journey that he went through, the major growth was in the seasons I didn't act for. So his challenge is basically, how do I grow from being just me to how do I become a mentor and an inspiration to other people? I feel like I'm in that position because I have siblings. I have to be a good example for my siblings too. There are people who think that I am successful for some reason, and I'm just like, okay, well, you respect me for some reason. That it doesn't erase that I actually did some pretty neat stuff. So you believe in me. So if you believe in me and I believe in the you that believes in me, and it's getting kind of communal up in here. But then it's sort of like, okay, yeah. But that's kind of like, I feel like I have to step into a role for that. For Coco, though, I just felt like I'm discovering a new part of this world. I just feel like I've had this relationship with someone I love very much. There are some doubts, but it's sort of like it comes from a place of love. Depends on which stage of my lifetime you're at, then we're going to be able to say, hey, this is the Coco part of my life right now. And that's pretty much what I went through. And that's why I was able to say, in terms of anime, of course, that this is just the thing. Now I now have someone I love very much, my sister. We didn't really have the best relationship growing up. We fought a lot. But now that we love each other a lot, it's sort of like we are that close. And it's sort of like, what aren't you willing to tell me would actually hurt me very much? Because but now it's sort of like I also have a better relationship with my dad too. You are actually more proud of me than I realize. And that's actually really important because I grew up thinking that my parents didn't like me. I have friends now who are outside of my bubble, out in suburbia, that taught me new things about life, new experiences, new perspectives. And that's basically like Coco and Ash. Everything's just new and I just want to strike out and do my own thing. Spoiler alert.
And you get to play going on to video games, one of the in my opinion cooler cookies in Cookie Run. You know?
She got a buff.
Yeah,
she got a buff. She's now in my cheese comp. And there's no cheese cookie that I know of inside in Kingdom, at least, but I do know that she carried me to master rank 4. And that's kind of hilarious because I went from, oh, okay, how do I do this, to once I got Frost, I think Snow Queen cookie, or at least Christina's cookie, and then I was like, yes, my team is coming together. And then I just used the Sun comp with Kumiho cookie, and they just wrecked shop. They just destroyed everybody, and now I can hopefully come home with 15,000 gems. Maybe by the end of the season, in a few days, if I hold my rank long enough, and I'll be like able to pull for more cookies. Sorry, game talk instead of acting talk.
Is there anything else that you're part of that's coming up that you can safely talk about? Or
I know recently Final Fantasy War of the Visions, or Final Fantasy Brave Exvius War of the Visions, has Rafal in it. And she was recently made playable. She was in the story for a little bit, but she wasn't playable yet. And the thing is that I really like that role because, yay, Final Fantasy. And it's not just like, oh, look, it's Camilla from Chocobo's Mystery Dungeon, where she only talks as a little cameo and then she's gone. But for Rafal, she's actually part of the plot. So it's kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm in a Final Fantasy game. Yay. and in the story mode too. And everything is just wild in that game. Like, holy crap, holy cow, maybe combine that. Holy crow. Sorry, it's getting kind of crazy there. But But in her perspective, like there's a lot of spoilers in everything I'm in, but that's because it's like at least a year's worth of content before I show up.
Okay.
And the thing is, or at least in the first year, my character shows up a bit late, but she shows up after one character passes away, but that character's not dead. But she now comes along with my character to do cool stuff behind the scenes because they are thought for dead. So my character is kind of like the kind of like they have these two friends that follow the main character around. My character is kind of like the tough person who's like the mean cop that gets mad. And then the other one's kind of like the cop that says, no, stay cool. And so I'm the one who's being a bit angry, who's all like, yeah, why does this person suck? Why do we believe in this person? And the main person's all like, stand down. I'm the leader. And I'm like, okay, you got this. But I'm capable. I'm watching you. And that's just what follows, basically.
Well, one of the most recent credits I saw, that it wasn't something that was out yet, but it was a game called Rival Threads.
Oh, man. For Rival Threads, I don't know what happened to it, actually.
Oh.
It's sort of like I remember auditioning for it a long time ago, and I don't know what happened to it. Maybe they need to work things out behind the scenes. Mm-hmm.
What about, well, I'm sure maybe any like upcoming anime that you're potentially part of, you probably can't talk about.
There are some upcoming anime. Can't talk about them though. But
Okay.
I will say that one of them's a simuldub, so I might be able to talk about it someday.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And my final question is always asking, what do you want your legacy to be?
My legacy. That's a hard one because it's sort of like I'm just trying to get by, dude. I didn't think that I was going to be voicing so many boys. I thought I had to morph my voice to be more like Kumiho all the time because I thought, oh, that's all the girl roles in anime. But it's not. They're boys too. And I'm like, oh, I didn't think it would go in this direction. I thought I would be tomboys at best because I can't be the magical girl. Unless I'm the boyish one, the tomboy magical girl. And then I don't know, just go with the flow. You never know where it's going to take you. And maybe that legacy is that.
And what do you, is there something that you want people to take away from your performances?
Let's see. That's an interesting question. For me, I try to skew for more real. Not to say that others aren't real, but that's what I try to do whenever I try to do my performances. My favorite roles are the ones that let me go that far. I think if people were to take anything away from those performances, it's probably what got me this far was just basic fundamentals, scene study. But the thing is that I think someone put it best as it's pretending so well that you living realistically under imaginary circumstances or something like that. And it's basically that you have to pretend so hard and you have to play so hard that you just get really into it. And that's pretty much what I probably hope people take away from it, that they just got to get into it. Sometimes they don't feel like it yet, and that's okay. Sometimes you don't need to feel too hard. Kumiho doesn't go through trauma like all the other characters we listed did that we know of. We don't know. Cookie Run actually has some really deep lore if you actually play the game. But the thing is sort of like, but Kumiho doesn't go through that kind of trauma that I know of so far. So we just have to be ready for everything. Who knows? The next expansion might touch on that story. We just got to be ready to play. Just be ready to play and play hard.
Well, thanks. I'm glad that we got to do this.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm so sorry that the scheduling was so wonky, but I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you had me here, and I'm glad you have me. Ah! Oh, I'm thank you.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.